You ever wonder if those little mistakes you make, saying the wrong name or completely forgetting a promise, aren't really mistakes at all? Well, Sigmund Freud did. He believed these weren't just accidents, but were actually secret messages from our own minds. I'm Dr. Larry Veredo, and today we're going to unpack that really radical idea.
I mean, of course you have, right? We all have. Maybe you called your new boss by your old boss's name, or you swore you'd mail a letter, only to find it in your coat pocket a week later. These little blips, these tiny errors, they're just part of being human. And usually, what do? We just blame it on being tired or stressed out or, not paying attention. But Freud, he looked at these seemingly meaningless little accidents, and he proposed something completely different, that they weren't accidents at all. To Freud, these weren't just random brain misfires. No. He believed every single slip, every time we forget something, was actually purposeful. He was convinced they held a secret meaning, and that if we just learned how to listen, they could tell us something profound about who we really are.
Now, the technical term he used for this was parapraxis, but we all know it by its more famous name, a Freudian slip. He called it a valid psychic act, which is a fancy way of saying it's a legitimate psychological event. It's like a tiny window that opens up into our unconscious mind, revealing thoughts or wishes we're trying to hide, sometimes even from ourselves.
As Freud himself put it, these slips pop up because of the mutual interference of two different intentions. So think of it like this. The mistake itself isn't the point. It's the result of a clash, a kind of mental battle between two competing desires that are happening inside your head at the exact same moment.
So how does that interference actually work? Let's break down this core idea of the two intentions.
Okay, so on one side, you've got your conscious intention. That's what you fully meant to say or do. But crashing into it is the interfering intention, this hidden, often suppressed thought that just kind of muscles its way to the surface and completely hijacks your original plan. The slip, the mistake you actually make, is just the messy result of that collision.
Freud gives this great example. Imagine the president of some society. He's standing at the podium, about to kick off what's probably going to be a long, boring meeting. He means to say, "I declare the meeting open," but what actually comes out of his mouth is something else. He says the exact opposite. Now, for Freud, this is crystal clear. The interfering intention, his secret desire to just be done with it all and go home, was so powerful that it completely steamrolled his conscious one. The slip didn't hide his feelings, it broadcast them. But it isn't always a complete reversal like that. Sometimes the two intentions sort of merge together, creating what Freud called a condensation. Check out this example of a woman talking about her husband's diet. Her little slip brilliantly squishes two totally separate ideas into one. The conscious thought is, he can eat whatever he pleases, but the interfering unconscious thought is, but let's be real, I'm the one who decides what's pleasing around here. The slip condenses both of those into a single and very, very revealing phrase. And this isn't just about slips of the tongue. Freud argued that this same dynamic, this battle of competing intentions, applies to a whole bunch of everyday mistakes, from forgetting things to losing them. Think about forgetting someone's name. Freud would ask, is it really just a bad memory, or is there a deeper reason you don't want to think of that person? Maybe you feel some hostility towards them, or they're connected to a painful memory. He gives this classic example of a man who just can't remember the name of his romantic rival. His mind is actively trying to erase the guy who represents his loss. And the same logic applies to losing things. Let's say you get a gift from an in-law you just can't stand. You don't want to be rude, so you accept it graciously. Then, a week later, poof, it's gone. You absent-mindedly misplaced it. Well, Freud would say there was nothing absent-minded about it. It was a targeted, unconscious mission to get rid of an object that reminded you of someone you'd much rather forget. Freud tells this fantastic story about that very thing. A man's going through a really rough patch with his wife, who had given him a book. Well, he promptly loses it, can't find it anywhere for months. Then, after they reconcile and he's feeling warm and affectionate toward her again, he walks over to his desk, and the book is the very first thing he sees. His inability to find it just vanished the second his unconscious motive for losing it disappeared. So this brings us to the real heart of the whole theory. What is the engine that's powering all of these slips, all this forgetting and misplacing? What are these hidden forces? Where does this interfering intention actually come from? And why on earth do we have it in the first place? Well, the answer in a single word is suppression. That interfering intention is always a thought, or a feeling, or a wish that you have actively tried to push down.
something you've decided shouldn't see the light of day. And that's why Freud called the error a compromise. See, it's not a total victory for your unconscious mind. It's more like a negotiation. Part of you wants to say the polite, correct thing, but another part of you, the suppressed part, wants to say something completely different. The error, the slip, is the mangled, distorted, but ultimately revealing result of that internal battle.
So what's the big takeaway from all of this? How does this change the way we look at ourselves and our own little mistakes?
The most important thing is this. If we accept Freud's theory, even just a little bit, then our mistakes are no longer just meaningless static. They become data. They're signals coming from the hidden parts of our own psyche. They really do offer a glimpse into the thoughts and desires we work so hard to keep under wraps, the intentions we might not even consciously admit that we have. In that light, our mistakes stop being something to be embarrassed about, and they become these powerful tools for understanding who we really are.
So the next time you forget a name, or you say the wrong word, or you can't find your keys, just ask yourself the question on this slide. Will you just laugh it off? Or are you going to stop for a second and listen to what that little mistake might be trying to tell you? Thanks for joining me for this explainer.